In his renowned dialogue Sophist, Plato refers to a common trend in which philosophers intentionally distort the truth so that it appears accurate unless viewed from the proper angle. To make his point, Plato gives the example of the Greek statuary, which was crafted larger on the top than on the bottom so that observers on the ground could view it correctly. Of course, if the observers were ever to view it in scale, they would realize that it was distorted. Liberals are promoting a similar kind of trend today. Many of these liberals have, started to claim that reality is subjective, even going so far as to label gender, species, and biologically masculine and feminine qualities as social constructs. Unfortunately for these deluded escapists, reality is not subjective. No matter what you believe, the mere fact that you believe it does not make it true. On the contrary, the lens through which you are viewing the world is malformed. And, if you ever decide that you want the ability to view the authentic truth, you will need to change your lens. Because the world is never going to collectively accept an alternate reality to accommodate your fantasies. This will lead to chaos, and in a way, it already has. One such chaotic example is the ever-increasing racist rhetoric being directed at white people. Such slogans as, "No white people allowed," or "All white people are racist," or "The white man is a devil," have gone mainstream and are now circulating the physical and digital networks of Western society. With the rise of the criminal ideology Black Lives Matter, white people as a whole are now being viewed through a malformed lens.
It's a melanin thing, because the more melanin you have, the more psychic you are. The more melanin you have, the more spiritual you are. The more melanin you have, the more intelligent you are. The more melanin you have, the more human you are. That's why we gauge human beings by that. It's a humanizing chemical. The people with the least amount of melanin are the Europeans, the Caucasians, the white people, the melanin-challenged people. I just want you to keep in mind that all worms and parasites are white, so I'm not going to go into that subject either.
White people are evil. They have the disconnect to chop your body up and dismantle it and play with it and shit. Jeffrey Dahmer was eating black men, just eating them, making sandwiches. He fed the sandwich to his neighbor. Sick, psycho shit. You understand me? White people are like that.
Perhaps the toxic power of the word can be revealed and exposed or illustrated by the serial murderer and cannibal Jeffrey Dahmer. Remember this guy. A lot of his victims were blacks, and when a reporter suggested that he was a racist to Jeffrey Dahmer, this was the most terrible libel of all. He may have been a homosexual, rapist, a murderer, and a cannibal, but when called a racist, he became enraged that someone would accuse him of such a heinous crime. Isn't that something, folks? It's okay to be a cannibal, it's okay to be a murderer, but don't call me a racist. Racism is defined as oppressing, exploiting, harming, or defaming a race. Now, if somebody said that Jews as a group are shysters, that would be considered racist. If someone says that blacks are promiscuous, for instance, that would be considered racist. But what if someone says that whites are racist? Racist, again, is about the worst thing you can call a person or even a race of people. So the question is, why is calling white people racist not itself racist? After all, labeling someone or some race as being racist evokes far more disgust and opposition than calling one a shyster or promiscuous. Why is it that this blatant racist defamation of European Americans, why is this defamation the one form of racism that you're not allowed to condemn? Because when people are grouped, when people are said to be racist, when white people are said to be guilty of racism, or when you talk about white racism, or how white people are racist, or white society is racist, you are certainly defaming. You are casting aspersion upon an entire race of people. So if defaming or condemning an entire group of people is racist, then, and this is supposed to be the media definition, then the truth is that that the media literally is racist. And more than that, the media even shows or promotes a great virtue and proof in people if they oppose, quote, white racist society. So, in other words, the truth is that one actually, all right, in the media's definition of the term, if he's racist, against European Americans, he is praised as an anti-racist. I want to talk a little bit about this whole issue of racism and the connection with the Michael Brown case. And before I go any further, I need to make clear that, and I'll make this very, very clear. I mean, there's a lot of factors that are responsible for any condition or any action in society. There's action and reaction. There's cause and effect. But I want to make it clear that the current rates of black crime and black hatred and angst against white people is not something that black people are actually responsible for. Now, that may sound strange to you, but I believe that. I know that their incredible hatred and anger against us is a product of this pervasive media racism against European Americans that the media has incited in them. The raising of black anger and hatred against European Americans has not been created by African Americans. In fact, I remember the years when this hatred didn't exist, that there was not this incredible amount of hatred in African Americans toward whites that we saw in the contorted faces of the demonstrators. You know, their anger, and yes, I dare say it, racism, is incited by a powerful media that lies to both blacks and whites as to the real cause of the loss of life or ruination of millions of black people. And yes, black people in our country are suffering a huge loss of life and a ruination of their lives. The violence and criminality, the gangsterism, the drug, alcohol, and sexual abuse that has swept the black community is first and foremost a result of an entertainment media that has ceaselessly promoted every form of disillusion, degeneration, and degradation. European Americans have to understand and recognize that black people are relatively powerless in the media. They're very powerless overall in finance, and they're very powerless in terms of the control of the government of the United States. The fact is that the Jewish-controlled media, movies, programming, and music that dominates this country has greatly affected black behavior in this last half of a century. The media has changed the cultural values of the United States and perniciously affected black people as well as white people.
We all need to be aware of what is truly at play in our country. We all need to be aware of who the real enemy is. Not each other, but the establishment. The establishment has been planting and fostering false and disparaging narratives for the sole purpose of turning Americans against one another. The establishment is trying to destabilize our country, to cripple our reliability upon one another so that we come to rely upon the establishment itself. And so far, their divide and conquer strategy has been succeeding. The establishment has already succeeded in dividing men and women through feminism, blacks and whites through Black Lives Matter, liberals and conservatives through the false narrative they've spun around the presidential election. And for those who are buying into it, you are being manipulated. You are being distracted. You are being made to believe that racism is flourishing unhindered in our country when if you truly take the time to examine the statistics, you will find that your anger is built upon a false claim. And, I mean, as far as the establishment is concerned, you are nothing more than a useful idiot. And in knowing that you are a useful idiot, the establishment will use you shamelessly. But the moment that you fulfilled your purpose, the moment that the establishment has squeezed all the benefits from you that they possibly can, they'll discard you. We all need to stand together. No matter our skin color, race, or gender, we all need to rise up as one. And if we can't do that, I mean, if we all just continue to go downward on this destructive path of regression, then we're eventually going to get the country that we deserve. It's going to be a country without harmony, a country without unity, and worst of all, a country without freedom.
Now, in order to make some sense out of all of this, we have to remember that there's a very small group of people who own and control everything. And they're psychopaths, they're con artists, they're masters of misdirection. We have to understand their MO to understand what they are doing to us. It's all about divide and conquer. It's all about being distracted. It's all about getting the men to fight the women and the races to fight one another, or the religions to fight one another. It's all about being distracted. Anything but focusing on what we have to do. We have to take responsibility individually to be the best that we can be. And remember to stay united. We are all one. We're all little specks of that green pea that is what this whole universe represents. We got to stop looking at the small differences between one another. We are so much alike, it's ridiculous to look at something like the difference in our color. That's not what matters. There's something wrong with us. We're disconnected. The fall of mankind, we have to correct that. Now, to understand the fall of mankind, there are 3 stages of knowledge. And the fall of mankind can be represented in each stage. And the only stage we need to focus on is the one where we can take action and correct our mistakes, and that's in the 2nd stage of knowledge. This is where the original sin is, and a lot of people are going to say, no, there's something before that, because there are 55 pieces before the 2nd stage of knowledge, or at least 55 that I have identified. And those are the 55 problems of knowledge that I've talked about many times. And a lot of people will come along and point to piece 19 or piece 55 or piece 3, and they think, look, John, you didn't go upstream. There's something that precedes the original sin. No, a sin is a mistake. It's an action. It's in the 2nd stage. Doesn't matter why we did what we do. We got to stop doing it. And then, once we stop doing it, we'll be in a better position to figure out what caused it all. Let's make sure it doesn't happen again. We don't need to know how we got down here to get back to where we need to be. The tricky part here is we just can't go from a negative B box of mistakes up to the plus B box of correcting the mistakes. We got to go through 2 doorways. And there's 40 obstacles in the first doorway. I guess we need to go back this way. 40 obstacles in the first doorway. We're in the 2nd stage. Here's the 1st stage. We got to go into where we have a problem of knowledge right there, where we have false knowledge. And then there are 40 obstacles in that first doorway that can keep us where we are on the wrong path, where everything represents the fall of mankind. And we need to go up and find the knowledge we're missing. And then we need to apply it. We need to go through the 2nd doorway. So there's 2 doorways we've got to go through. 40 obstacles in the first, 13 in the 2nd. And then there are 2 forms of ignorance where we don't know the false knowledge that we have in place of the knowledge we need. And then that magical knowledge we're missing. We got to find that knowledge and apply it. So yeah, there's a lot of things that come before the original sin. But the original sin is in the 2nd stage of knowledge. It doesn't matter to go back and look at what's before it at this point. Because the only thing that matters is for us to correct the fall. Now, the way it happened in the past, we don't know for sure why we made that mistake. We can take blame and it doesn't matter. Again, it doesn't matter. Because we can't go back that way. We can't slide back up what I label 109, where we applied fire to our food and started cooking our food. The cooking of our food is in the second stage. Only one way to correct that is to work our way backwards, go through these two doorways. And the easiest way to do that is to test an idea as time has come. That's the Solid Food Vacation. I got a playlist down below. Check it out, 28 videos to back it up. And my camera's blowing around because the wind is blowing. So before I leave, you're in for a treat.